Welcome to English and Emotions, where love meets language.
Have you ever been there? I mean, you're connecting with someone. Maybe you've been on a few really great dates, perhaps. Or maybe it's, a friendship that's developing. You're sharing things, feeling a real spark.
Yeah, something feels like it's building.
Exactly. You're building something. You're anticipating where it could go. And then just boom, sudden bewildering silence.
Radio silence.
Totally. No text back. Calls go unanswered. They disappear online. No explanation. Just gone. A complete vanishing act.
Uh-huh.
If that sounds painfully familiar, then you, my friend, have almost certainly experienced what we're diving into today, ghosting.
Right.
And it's way more than just some trendy term, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's often a deeply personal, really painful experience that leaves so many of us just scrambling for answers.
Absolutely. Wondering what went wrong.
That knot in your stomach, wondering what you did wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. Our mission today is to go, far beyond just defining ghosting. We want to really get into the emotional roller coaster it puts you on.
The whole messy reality of it.
Yeah, digging into the psychological stuff at play.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we want to uncover some clear, actionable ways to not just recover, but actually heal.
And find some empowerment in it, right?
Exactly. Genuine healing and ultimately reclaiming that sense of self-worth. We're drawing heavily from our source material today. It's a really insightful piece called Ghosted, Navigating Silent Endings and Self-Worth.
Which really focuses on this very specific kind of pain, doesn't it? This relational pain that can feel so isolating.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, I think, beyond just how common ghosting is now.
It seems like it's everywhere.
It really does, but it's how little guidance we've historically had on actually processing it in a healthy way.
Right.
You know?
Like, what do you do with that feeling?
Exactly. It leaves so many people feeling completely stranded, lost in this emotional wilderness without a map. So in this deep dive, we'll explore not just what ghosting is, how it's different from a regular breakup.
That distinction is key. It absolutely is, but also critically why it might happen, looking at it from different angles.
Because understanding the why can be freeing.
Hugely freeing. It can help shift that focus away from blaming yourself, which is so easy to do, towards maybe understanding other factors.
Okay.
And then, the most vital part, we'll look at strategies, not just to get over being ghosted, but maybe even use the experience for some real personal growth.
Turning it into something constructive.
That's the goal. So our journey today starts with defining it clearly. Then we'll move into those typical, often agonizing emotional reactions.
Yeah, the overthinking, the self-blame.
All of that. Then we'll touch on the cultural context, why this seems to be on the rise.
Right.
But we won't stay stuck there. We'll make a strong pivot towards healing, focusing entirely on how to reclaim your inner strength.
Excellent.
And we'll even touch on some natural English phrases, as the source suggests, because sometimes just being able to name what you're feeling.
Puts you back in control somehow.
Precisely. Being able to articulate it is often that very first, absolutely crucial step towards dealing with it effectively.
That's such a good point, just naming it. So let's start right there at the beginning, laying the foundation. What exactly is ghosting? Because like you said, it's more than just someone not texting back after, like one casual chat.
Oh, definitely. It implies a certain level of connection was already established.
Right. Our source material really emphasizes that it happens when someone you've been engaging with, meaningfully, maybe talking regularly, maybe you were dating for a bit.
Could even be exclusively.
Or even building a really strong friendship, And then suddenly, completely out of the blue, with no warning, no explanation, they just cut off all communication.
Total cutoff.
Yeah. It is, like the text says, the abrupt silent ending. That complete radio silence that just leaves you hanging in this void, trying to figure out what just happened.
Yeah, trying to piece together a reality that just seemed to evaporate. And the absence of explanation, as you mentioned, that's really the absolute defining feature. That's where the unique pain comes from.
Right, it's not like a normal breakup.
Not at all. With a conventional breakup, you usually get reasons. They might be flimsy reasons or hurtful reasons, but you get something, a narrative.
Closure of a sort.
Exactly, even if it's messy closure. With ghosting, there's just nothing. A deliberate void. It's not about being told no, which, okay, it hurts in the moment, but at least it's clear.
You know where you stand.
Precisely. Ghosting leaves you wondering if anything you thought you had actually existed at all. Did I imagine that connection? Was it real?
Of ambiguity.
It's profoundly unsettling, and that's what really sets ghosting apart from other kinds of rejection. It completely denies you, the person who's been ghosted, the chance to process the end.
You can't ask questions.
No questions, no understanding, no finality. It just strips away your agency in the whole situation. You feel helpless, confused.
Maybe even like you're going a bit crazy trying to make sense of it.
Absolutely, because you're trying to make sense of something inherently senseless, or at least unexplained. And that lack of information is what triggers so many of those difficult psychological reactions we need to talk about.
And it's become such a common term now, hasn't it? The source highlights that simple phrase, she ghosted me, or he ghosted me. It's just part of our everyday language now. It's almost like a shorthand. You say that, and people immediately get the picture, the whole complex emotional weight of it.
They really do. Everyone understands the scenario.
And that fact alone, that it's so universally understood, just speaks volumes about how widespread this experience has become. Not just in dating either.
No, it happens in friendships, even professionally sometimes, although we're focusing mostly on the relational side today.
Right.
It's true, and that shared understanding of the term itself really points to a shared emotional reality for so many people. It's almost like society collectively needed a word for this specific type of modern pain and confusion.
We needed a label for it.
Exactly. And ghosted carries all that weight. It signifies someone just vanishing without a trace and the impact that has. It's more than just slang. It's like a cultural marker for a particular dilemma that, well, the digital age has certainly made easier.
Easier to disappear behind a screen.
Much easier than having a difficult face-to-face conversation, for sure.
Okay, so here's where it gets, well, really interesting for me, and I know for so many listeners. Once that chilling silence hits, right? Once you realize, okay, the communication has just stopped.
Yeah.
What's that immediate, often gut-wrenching reaction?
Yeah, what happens inside?
Because it's rarely just, shrugging your shoulders and moving on.
Oh, almost never. It's usually much more intense.
Why is that?
Well, for very good psychological reasons, our minds, you see, are basically meaning-making machines. They crave coherence. They want a story that makes sense.
They hate gaps.
Absolutely hate gaps, especially in social connections. So when a pattern of communication, something you've come to expect, suddenly breaks without any explanation, it sets off alarms. Primal alarms, almost.
Right.
And this leads directly to that intense overthinking we mentioned. Psychologists call it rumination.
Rumination. Right.
It's this relentless looping thought process. You meticulously replay every single conversation, every text, every shared moment, every look.
Searching for the mistake.
Searching desperately for a clue, a red flag you missed. Did I see something weird in that last message? Was there some hidden meaning I didn't pick up on?
You become a detective of your own interactions.
Exactly. Scrutinizing every tiny detail, just hoping to find a pattern, a reason, anything that explains this sudden, baffling disappearance, and that consumes an enormous amount of mental energy.
Oh, totally draining. It really is like your brain turns into this frantic detective, but you're sifting through evidence that might not even be relevant, or you're totally misinterpreting things that were probably fine.
Twisting innocent comments into potential signs.
Right. And that obsessive hunt for a reason, it so often leads straight into that really painful trap of blaming yourself, doesn't it?
Almost inevitably. Because without any external information, any explanation from the other person, it becomes incredibly easy to internalize the silence.
To make it about you.
To make it a direct reflection of your own worth, or something you did wrong. You start thinking, okay, there must have been something I did.
I wasn't interesting enough, funny enough, attractive enough.
I came on too strong, I wasn't responsive enough, I was too much or maybe not enough, all those things.
Yeah.
It's a classic cognitive distortion, that vacuum of information, your brain fills it, and usually it fills it with negative self-talk.
Because it needs an explanation.
It desperately craves one. And if the ghoster doesn't provide one, your brain will create one internally, often making you the culprit.
Which feels awful, but maybe gives a sense of control. Like, if I messed up, I could fix it next time.
Paradoxically, yes. That self-blame, while incredibly damaging to your self-esteem, can offer this illusion of control. If I'd just done X differently, this wouldn't have happened. It's a coping mechanism, however unhealthy, trying to impose order on a situation that feels chaotic and completely out of your hands.
But it erodes your confidence so quickly.
Absolutely.
Oh.
That feeling of being unworthy or not enough can take root really fast.
And the source material, it just captures this raw, almost physical desperation so perfectly with that simple phrase, "I kept checking my phone."
Oh, that one hits home for so many.
Doesn't it just? That image alone evokes such recognition. That simple action illustrates that desperate hope, doesn't it? For just a sign, a notification, anything to break the silence and give you some clarity.
You're glued to it, waiting for a lifeline.
Waiting for that ping.
That phrase, "I kept checking my phone," it just speaks volumes about the underlying anxiety and anticipation. It's not just casually looking for messages, it becomes compulsive, driven by that deep human need for connection, for validation, and for an end to the horrible uncertainty.
And every time you check and there's nothing.
It's like a tiny rejection, isn't it? A micro rejection that just reinforces the silence and deepens the confusion, maybe even the desperation. Your brain's reward system, which normally lights up with new messages, kind of gets hijacked. It creates this frustrating loop of hope, check, disappointment, repeat.
That's exhausting.
It is. But it's so important for listeners to hear this. These reactions, the constant overthinking, the self-blame, the phone checking, they are not signs that you're weak or flawed.
They're normal human responses.
Exactly. They're just how our brains try desperately to cope with ambiguity, with perceived social rejection, with loss, all without the benefit of a clear narrative or ending. Recognizing that normality can be the very first step toward breaking free from that obsessive cycle.
That's such a crucial point, normalizing the reaction. It really helps shift away from feeling like there's something wrong with you for feeling that way. Which brings us to, well, a really fascinating but often frustrating idea our source gets into. These common dating behaviors in Western culture, like why some people disappear instead of giving closure.
The cultural angle.
Yeah. It raises that big question I think so many of us wrestle with. Why? Why this tendency towards what the source calls passive rejection? Why do people just vanish when a simple, even brief conversation could prevent so much confusion and pain?
It's a really critical point, and it seems deeply tangled up in certain cultural norms, particularly in some Western contexts. Passive rejection and ghosting is kind of the ultimate form of it, is often a strategy the ghoster uses to avoid direct confrontation.
They don't want the awkwardness.
They don't want the awkwardness. They don't want the difficult conversation. It might stem from a genuine discomfort with causing discomfort in somewhere else, like a misguided attempt to spare feelings by just fading out.
Which ironically often causes more pain.
Much more, usually. Or, very commonly, it points to underdeveloped communication skills. They simply might not know how to articulate their changing feelings or their shifting priorities, or maybe they just lost interest and don't have the words.
It takes courage to end things directly.
It takes courage, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to sit with discomfort, both yours and the other person's. For many, it just feels easier, less messy perhaps, to step away quietly and hope the other person eventually gets the hint.
Rather than facing the potential fallout.
Right. Avoiding the awkwardness, the potential peers or anger, their own discomfort with being the bad guy, and let's be honest, the digital age with its easy disengagement.
Click, block, done.
Exactly. It's amplified this tendency. It makes it technically simpler to just disappear behind a screen than ever before. It might reflect a cultural shift towards maybe convenience over deep consideration in some contexts.
So it could be framed, in the ghoster's mind, as almost a kindness, or at least avoiding unpleasantness for themselves, and maybe they think for you too.
Possibly. They might genuinely believe they're sparing you the direct no or the pain of a difficult conversation.
But in reality, as you said, they create this whole other kind of pain. The ambiguity is just brutal.
It's its own special kind of torment, absolutely. And it also taps into that broader societal thing where sometimes being very direct, especially in personal stuff, can be seen as harsh.
Like it's impolite to be too blunt.
Yeah, in some circles, there's this implicit teaching to prioritize a certain kind of surface politeness over raw honesty. That fear of conflict or just sheer awkwardness leads straight to avoidance.
Okay.
And that's where those potential uncommunicated reasons come in the ones the source mentions. Like maybe they just lost interest or felt you came on too strong.
Right, the things you torture yourself wondering about.
Exactly. From the ghoster's side, these might be the silent internal justifications. Maybe interest genuinely faded, and they didn't know how to say it kindly. Or maybe they did feel overwhelmed, and instead of saying, hey, let's slow down, which takes vulnerability,
They just bolted.
they just retreated. But here's the absolute crucial part for you, the person who is ghosted. These are possibilities. They aren't facts, you know. And even if they were the reasons, they are still their reasons.
Reflecting on them.
Totally reflecting on their internal state, their communication style, their emotional capacity, their comfort levels. It is not a judgment on your inherent value or your actions. These are just uncommunicated thoughts inside their head that give you zero clarity, and critically, they do not diminish your worth one bit.
And that, right there, brings us to what feels like the most critical, life-changing takeaway for anyone who's been through this. It's the message our source material really hammers home, like the anchor point for recovery. It's not about you being unworthy.
Yes, let that sink in.
That sentence. It needs to be more than just words you hear. It needs to land deep down in your core. It's truly transformative when it does.
It truly is. That statement, it's not about you being unworthy, is absolutely foundational. It's the starting block for any real healing. Ghosting, by its very definition, reflects entirely on the ghoster.
On their choices, their actions.
Their communication style, their level of emotional maturity, maybe their current life circumstances are overwhelming, maybe they have their own fears or unresolved issues. It says absolutely nothing. Let me repeat that. Nothing about the worthiness, the desirability, the value of the person who is ghosted.
It's not a reflection on you.
Not at all. It's purely a reflection of their inability or maybe unwillingness to communicate directly, respectfully. It's not a judgment on your character, your appeal, or anything you did or didn't do.
I like the analogy you used earlier. The restaurant closing without a sign.
Right. If a restaurant shuts down suddenly and doesn't tell anyone, it doesn't mean your hunger isn't valid or that you don't deserve food. It just means the restaurant failed to communicate its status.
Their action speaks to their operations, not my worthiness as a customer.
Exactly. Their behavior reflects their operating style, their communication choices, not your inherent deservingness.
Wow. And when you really grasp that, not just intellectually, but like feel it, the relief is immense.
Yeah.
It just shifts the whole story.
The whole narrative changes.
You go from that agonizing loop of, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? To this liberating understanding. Okay, this person acted in a way that reflects their issues, their communication gaps, not mine. It feels like you get handed back the pen to write your own story again.
Precisely. It empowers you. You reclaim your self-perception. You detach your sense of self from their confusing actions. When you truly internalize that their silence is about them, not you, it fundamentally alters how you see the situation.
You stop taking it so personally.
You stop internalizing their behavior as some kind of personal failing or verdict on you. And that realization, it's powerful, maybe even revolutionary for some people, because it lets you move beyond the crushing weight of self-blame.
Which is exhausting.
So exhausting. And you can start rebuilding your confidence on solid ground on your own terms, recognizing that someone else's communication failure doesn't diminish your worth. That's a massive step towards building real resilience.
And healthier self-esteem overall.
Absolutely. Not just for dealing with this specific ghosting incident, but for all your future relationships and interactions. It frees you. It frees you from needing validation from someone who clearly isn't willing or able to give it.
You shift your focus inwards.
You shift your locus of control, as psychologists say, from external what they did or didn't do to internal how you respond, how you value yourself, regardless.
Okay, so once we've really absorbed that critical message, it's about them, not us. Our worth is intact. How do we actually make that pivot? How do we move from the sting, the raw pain of being ghosted, towards genuine healing and ideally personal growth?
Yeah, how do we make that turn?
Because our source material offers a really powerful shift here, doesn't it? Moving away from feeling like a victim towards feeling empowered.
It absolutely does. And this is where the real transformative work kicks in. The process involves, as the source suggests, reflecting deeply on your self-worth, boundaries, and emotional growth.
Okay.
Now, this isn't about just trying to forget it or pretend it didn't hurt. That doesn't work. It's not healthy.
You have to acknowledge the pain.
You have to acknowledge the pain, yes. But then it's about integrating the lesson, understanding what happened from this new perspective, and transforming the whole experience into a catalyst, an opportunity for real personal development.
Taking something disempowering and finding power in it.
Exactly. Using it as fuel to become more resilient, more self-aware, maybe even clearer about what you want than you were before.
Can you talk a bit more about actively reestablishing self-worth? Because honestly, when someone ghosts you, especially someone you felt a connection with, it can feel like your worth just took a massive nosedive.
Oh, that feeling is so common, that sense of diminished value. And that's precisely why actively rebuilding or reaffirming your self-worth is step one.
What does it look like?
It means consciously, deliberately recognizing and stating, maybe even writing down, your inherent value. Value that exists completely independently of anyone else's approval or actions.
It's not based on external validation.
Not at all. Your worth isn't like a stock price bouncing around based on who texts you back. It's internal. It's steady. It's based on who you are. Your kindness, your passions, your strengths, your unique quirks.
Not based on how someone treats you.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You cannot allow someone else's poor communication or their choice to dictate your fundamental sense of self. You are worthy because you are, period.
That's powerful.
Realizing this allows you to stop looking for validation from the very person who withheld it and instead turn inwards. Cultivate it yourself. Nurture that internal sense of, I am enough regardless.
Okay, and what about boundaries? You mentioned boundaries. How does ghosting shine a spotlight on them, and how do we use this experience to set better ones moving forward?
Well, ghosting fundamentally is a massive violation of the unspoken social contract, the implicit boundaries of respect and communication we assume exist in developing relationships.
You expect some level of honesty.
You expect some basic level of directness, clarity, honesty, especially if a connection was forming. When that's just thrown out the window, when you're simply cut off with no explanation, that's a clear breach.
Recognizing it as a breach is empowering.
Hugely empowering, because it clarifies what is not acceptable to you. It highlights the kind of treatment you won't tolerate. And that awareness empowers you to set much clearer boundaries in the future.
Like what? What might that look like?
It might mean consciously deciding, okay, moving forward, I'm only investing my time and emotional energy in people who demonstrate consistent, clear, respectful communication.
Raising your standards for interaction.
Exactly. Recognizing you deserve transparency and mutual respect. Anything less becomes a signal, not that you're unworthy, but that the interaction isn't meeting your standard and you need to protect your well-being.
It becomes a filter.
A healthy filter. It's a proactive step, a self-affirming declaration. I value myself too much to be left guessing or treated disrespectfully. I require clear communication. This clarity helps prevent you from getting stuck in similar cycles of confusion and hurt down the line.
And all of this rebuilding worth, setting boundaries, it feeds into a bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
Deeper emotional growth. It's not just patching up the wound.
Oh, absolutely. It's about evolving. Navigating something this painful and ambiguous forces you really to confront tough emotions head on.
Sadness, anger, confusion.
All of it. And in doing so, you have to develop new coping mechanisms, new ways of understanding yourself and others. You learn a lot about human behavior, your own triggers and responses, and the patterns you see in others.
You build resilience.
You build serious emotional resilience. You gain immense clarity on what you truly need and deserve in relationships. Your understanding of your own emotional landscape deepens.
It's like exercising an emotional muscle.
That's a great way to put it. You've gone through this really challenging workout, and by choosing to heal constructively, you emerge stronger, more self-aware, better equipped for future challenges. It significantly boosts your overall emotional intelligence.
You learn to spot healthier dynamics.
Yes, and respond more effectively when things get tough. It really is about turning that wound into wisdom.
Now, our source also gives another piece of advice that sounds simple, but feels incredibly hard, yet liberating. Take the silence as your answer.
Ah, yes. That one's tough, but crucial.
What does that really mean in practice?
Yeah.
Especially when every fiber of your being might still be hoping for that text, that explanation.
It's probably the most difficult step for many, but it's key to breaking free. It means consciously, actively choosing to accept that the absence of communication is communication.
The silence is the message.
The silence is the message. It's a lousy message, often unkind, definitely lacking courtesy, but it is their answer. It means you have to actively let go of that desperate need for explicit closure for the why. When it's become crystal clear it's not coming.
You stop waiting for something they won't give.
You acknowledge, both intellectually and emotionally, that the ghoster has communicated their choice, their unavailability, their disinterest, their discomfort, whatever it is, through their silence. Their lack of action is their action. You interpret it as definitive.
So it's not about saying their behavior was okay. Not at all.
Absolutely not condoning it. It's about acknowledging the reality of their choice and deciding that you will no longer remain in limbo because of it.
You choose to move on for your own sake.
Yes. It's about self-preservation, and there is immense liberation in that acceptance. You release yourself from the constant burden of waiting, wondering, analyzing.
And stops the mental hamster wheel.
It stops that exhausting cycle of overthinking and waiting for a message that likely isn't coming. By choosing to take silence as the answer, you are proactively taking back your power. You redirect your time, your mental energy, your emotional resources
Away from them.
away from someone unwilling or unable to communicate, and you channel it back towards yourself, towards your own healing in life. It's a profound act of emotional self-care.
A boundary for your own peace of mind.
Exactly. You are refusing to let someone who opted out hold your emotional state hostage any longer. You disarm their silence's power over you.
And that flows so perfectly into what feels like the ultimate empowering instruction from our source. Start choosing yourself again.
Yes, I love that phrase.
It's not passive at all. It's active. It's a deliberate reorientation, a call to action.
It really is. Start choosing yourself again means making a fundamental, conscious shift in where you place your focus and energy.
From them to you.
Exactly. Deliberately redirecting your attention, your care, your efforts away from the ghoster, away from the confusion they created, and pouring it back into your own needs, your own desires, your own happiness.
Prioritizing your well-being.
Actively prioritizing it. Acknowledging that you are the most important person in your narrative. This could mean practical things, right? Like reconnecting with supportive friends and family who lift you up.
Getting back into hobbies.
Diving back into hobbies and passions that bring you genuine joy and a sense of purpose. Maybe focusing intensely on personal or professional goals that got sidelined.
Or just allowing yourself space to heal.
Or simply giving yourself permission and time for self-reflection, for healing, without judgment, without pressure. It's about actively nurturing your own inner world again.
So it's really about rebuilding your life, consciously, piece by piece, on foundations that you value and you control. Rather than waiting around for someone else's validation or for closure they're never going to give you, it's constructing a life where your well-being truly is the priority.
Precisely that. It's about reaffirming your intrinsic value through your actions. Demonstrating self-love by how you spend your time and energy. It's about remembering who you are, separate from this painful experience.
Or even discovering a stronger version of yourself.
Or discovering this stronger, more resilient, more self-aware person who's emerged from navigating this very challenge. And as our source points out, a tangible part of this growth can actually be seen in learning how to express these feelings clearly in English or whatever your language is.
Being able to talk about it.
Being able to articulate the experience, yeah. Both internally, like through journaling or just self-talk, and externally, maybe to trusted friends or a therapist. It's vital for processing.
Why is naming it so important?
Because when you can put words to those complex feelings, the confusion, the hurt, the anger, the frustration, that sense of abandonment, it diminishes their overwhelming amorphous power.
Makes them less scary.
It makes them more concrete, less scary. You transform this abstract pain into something tangible that you can actually look at, analyze, understand, and eventually begin to release. It gives you the language to own your narrative.
Instead of being defined by their silence.
Exactly. Instead of being silently defined and maybe paralyzed by someone else's silence, this linguistic mastery, being able to talk about it, reinforces your agency. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your own healing journey.
Wow. What an incredibly thorough deep dive this has been. We've really, we've unpacked the confusing, often painful world of ghosting, haven't we?
We really have.
Understanding its definition, that crucial lack of closure, the immediate emotional fallout, that cultural context behind it, and most importantly, how to navigate through it by shifting that focus squarely onto our own inherent self-worth and consciously embarking on that healing journey.
And just to recap those key points, remember, that silence, it really does provide an answer. Maybe not the one you wanted or felt you deserved, but an answer nonetheless.
Accept the reality of it.
Accept the reality, and even more critically, your worth is never, ever, ever determined by someone else's inability or unwillingness to communicate with respect and clarity.
Hold on to that.
That message is absolutely paramount for your long-term well-being.
Yes, really let that sink in. It's not about you being unworthy. Feel that deep down, and then make that active choice. Take the silence as your answer, because that decision frees you.
It cuts the cord.
It does. And then, the most empowering step you can take, start choosing yourself again. That's where your power truly resides. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening right now, moving forward from today? Maybe the real measure of navigating these silent endings isn't about getting an explanation from someone who refuses to give one. Maybe it's about how powerfully, how purposefully you reclaim your own narrative.
Taking back control.
Yeah, how decisively you choose to invest your precious time, your energy, your heart in people who do show up, who do demonstrate they value you through clear, respectful, consistent communication. So the question to leave you with is, what does choosing yourself look like for you starting right now, today?